Hello, I'm going to start by saying thank you once again to all of the decent people who have subscribed to the channel and who continue to support what it is that I'm trying to do. Most of you know that the purpose of this channel is to expose the true nature of what took place in 2021, the Abu Dhabi fix, where the sport itself fixed the outcome of the championship. Many people are aware that something controversial happened. They don't know the truth about it. They were fed the cover story of the race director, Michael Massey, making an error under pressure, and that then meant that the rules were somehow done differently, and we got what we got. That is what they want the world to believe, and they hope that everybody's moved on from it. Most people have moved on. That means they get what they want. They made a lot of money. Who are they? Well, the owners of the show and who they control. So who they control, Liberty Media are the owners of the show of Formula One. They hold the marketing rights. So they sell the show to the world. So they're the ones that make the huge profits. But then all the other companies that buy the show, they make money out of it as well, through selling the advertising revenue that goes along with the show. So they have control over the media. That way they have control over the narrative, what gets exposed to people, what gets fed to people, what gets put in front of people for people to argue about. They create the dynamics of the show. They've created conflict. The whole dynamic of Formula One has changed since 2021. Prior to 2021, I do not recall toxicity within the fan base of Formula One to anywhere near the extent that it is that you see these days. Now, social media plays a part. Formula One has purposefully sought to expand in social media. That was their strategy. I can show you videos that was their strategy. That was what they wanted to do. They wanted to attract a younger generation as well. But what they've done, they've created conflict. They've tried to polarize people. They've tried to tribalize people, because in doing so, what they can do, they can incite people, and that is what they've done. They've put people against one another. This is a tried and tested strategy. This is something that has gone on for centuries, and ultimately, whilst people are fighting each other, those that are actually pulling the strings and actually causing the conflict, they profit from it. They get to rule. They get to live in a life of luxury whilst everybody else is fighting. Now, there'll be several people that just won't be able to kind of understand what I'm saying, but these sorts of things happen by design. They're a media company, okay? They're a media company. They know what they're doing. Market research has taken place for years and years and years. They know what makes their audiences tick. They know the dynamics of the situation, and they also knew what they would need to do to present a contrivance and to get away with it. Like I say, so far they have. Most people don't realise that before the so-called human error, the commentators of the sport, the presented experts, were lying about the possibilities. And then when we got this human error, the wrong decision, rather than say, well, that's not right, we got, oh, wow, we're going to see a racing lap. We think we're going to see a racing lap. Oh, wow, now we are. Now, that's not authentic. In any sport you'd watch, if the rules were being broken, those people commentating on the sport would say, well, That's not allowed to happen. That's not in the rules of the sport. That's not possible. But in Formula One, they're saying, oh, are we going to see this? Are we going to see that? We think we might see this. We're expecting this to happen. Oh, this is going to happen. Wow. So you see the banner across the top of my channel, Criminal Minds. It was a fraud. It was perpetrated, firstly, by media. Media lying to each and every one of us to condition us before it even happened. Then the government of the sport, the governing body, broke the rules of the sport to make it happen. And then the media got involved all over again by validating it, by once again lying about the possibilities, throwing into the mix 20, 30, 40 different irrelevant factors for us to argue about in the comment section of social media, and none of them were relevant. But what it did, it ignited social media. It ignited the space of Formula One. It made Formula One trend. That made people want to be... It got the attention of the world. And when it gets the attention of the world, when the eyes are on Formula One, the advertising space associated with Formula One becomes more valuable. Companies want to advertise their wares in that space because they get a lot of attention. So this is all part and parcel of the dynamics of the situation. And then the governing body goes, yeah, we looked at it, and yeah, it was a mistake made under pressure, but we're happy with it. The guy that did it, he signed a legal document, so he's not allowed to say anything about it. Move on. That is a fraud. That's a crime, punishable by imprisoning the offenders. And yet, having been sold this, having all of us that are interested in Formula One being sold a live event that was then contrived, we've all been defrauded. And they're getting away with it. They're continuing to do what they did. We're seeing criminals continue to prosper. That's not acceptable. Never will be. Never will be. So, in my recent few videos, I've been focusing on Crashgate as opposed to Abu Dhabi. The reason being it's actually all relevant. Because Crashgate was a historic thing in Formula One, took place in 2008. When was Crashgate then really next talked about? You heard about, well, Crashgate, the actual offence took place in 2008. People heard about it maybe towards the end of 2008, 2009, when it emerged that yes, indeed, Piquet Jr. had indeed crashed on purpose. We found that out when he had his contract ended by the Renault team. So he's like, well, I'm going to tell the truth. So then we found out that yes, Renault had cheated after a while. Briatore gets a lifetime ban from the sport, although he gets invited back in 2022 as an ambassador. Pat Simmons gets a 5-year ban. He's now back as the Formula One Chief Technical Officer or something like that, having had other jobs within the sport in the interim time. So again, cheats, prospering. And there's a relevance now, because we didn't really hear anything about Crashgate until after Abu Dhabi 2021, did we? Nobody really spoke about it. Nobody up until between 2008, 2009 and 2021 who was saying, oh, Felipe Massa should have been the world champion in 2008. Lewis Hamilton shouldn't have 7 world championships. I don't recall anybody ever saying that. I might be wrong, I don't ever recall reading anything about that or hearing any broadcast suggesting that notion at all. But after Abu Dhabi 2021, sometime after, we get presented with this notion, oh, well, actually, Lewis should only have 6 because he shouldn't have 2008. Felipe Massa should have had that. And we get presented with the notion that due to Crashgate, that Grand Prix should have been voided. Now, it's strange that they are suggesting, or I say they. Who's they? Well, the they in this instance is Bernie Ecclestone, a 90-odd-year-old billionaire, former owner of the commercial rights of the sport, who sold them to Liberty Media for what, 4 billion back when he sold it to them. There's a lot that I'm going to explore about that in a future video, in terms of what Bernie says about it. He's suggesting that the statutes at the time were that they should have voided that race. Well, that doesn't appear to be the truth, Bernie. And then later, he's in a different interview, he claims that, he's forgotten that he ever said certain things. Poor old Bernie, he's forgetful now. You know, he is 90 odd. He's forgot what he did say about it now. But the media wants to broadcast it. The media wants to throw it out there. Oh, yes, Massa should be the 2008 World Champion. The media doesn't expose the reality of this. The media runs a story because it knows it will incite conflict. It knows that this new breed of strap-on fanboy that's been created in this divide of Formula One now, in this toxic environment that now exists in the sport of Formula One, where you've got these fanboys, right, that then will want to troll the comment sections to then incite and create conflict because they get off on it. That never used to exist in Formula One as far as I was aware. But now, you know, we get these individuals that want to create these conflicts and these arguments. I say create, they're created by media narrative, and they get jumped on by these fanboys and these trolls and these fanatics who have that much hatred for another driver for whatever reason, that is then the arguments that they want to conduct, rather than be able to look at a situation, analyze the mechanics of a situation, and determine the validity of what must take place. Their desires are such that they would rather say, I don't understand the situation, but I want Hamilton to lose that championship. That's the simplicity of it. As most of you know, I tried to keep things as blunt and as straightforward as possible, because things are it's a lot of the time people try to present themselves as being intelligent through the vocabulary that they use or through how they talk about things. Well, all well and good, but if you're talking and not all of your audience understands it, well, you're failing a little bit there, aren't you? You need to be able to present things in a manner where everybody that hears it can understand it, because otherwise you're leaving some people behind. So I try to keep things quite blunt and straightforward and whatever. The downside of that is that people will think, oh, well, this guy is not speaking in a very sophisticated manner. What does he know? Well, ultimately, what you need to understand is, don't focus on whether or not it is that you like me or think that I know what I'm talking about. listen to what I say and analyze whether the content is valid or not. Okay, that's all that matters. Is what I'm saying factual or not? Does it make sense or not? Is what you're being presented with elsewhere, does that make sense? Or does the way I say it ring truer? And that's all that matters. Because that's the point of this channel, it's actually to break down the lies that you're being told. Well, the point of the channel is to expose Abu Dhabi, but it's to break down all of the lies that you have been told. You've been told them in a sophisticated manner. You've been told them by people who you believe are authentic, by presented experts of the sport in a really nice, shiny way of presenting. We're Formula One presenters. We're on the telly. We're authentic. You've got to believe everything that we say. So already they've got this advantage. Okay? The masses will be presented with that and they won't question it. And in opposition to that is this voice, this faceless voice on the internet that's saying, well, it's not like that. And this is why it's not like that. So focus on the content rather than the sophistication of how I articulate it. Going through these videos about the man on track, what I'm basically saying there is Singapore 2008, where Crashgate occurred, the Renault team caused a crash to cause a safety car. Okay, so ultimately what affected the race was the deployment of the safety car and how their pit strategy ran around that. They pitted Alonso first, so which is a strange thing to do because he'd qualified low down the grid, and normally what they'd do, they'd run a competitor longer. They ran a short stint at the start, so he went into the pits, did what he needed to do, whether it was fueled up and changed tyres or whether it was just tyres, I don't know. Came out probably last, but then when the safety car was deployed and the field had to bunch before anyone went into the pits, Alonso ended up, they all passing pretty much all of them, I believe. So Renault contrived that. That was the rules of the sport at the time in terms of the mechanics of how the safety car window operated. But essentially, we can say that is a non-organic deployment of the safety car because what caused it wasn't an authentic motor racing incident. Well, that's the same with somebody walking onto the track. You know, they have affected the race, and therefore, what should we do? Shall we void the race? No is the answer. Okay, because you've not voided any of those races where somebody has walked on the track and affected the race. Why not? Well, when the race is affected, you have to respond to whatever takes place. And whatever took place is, well, the safety car is deployed and teams then respond accordingly. In 2008, Ferrari responded accordingly, but then messed up. And that's all that's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. I would have a different point of view about this if Piquet Jr. had purposely crashed into Massa and taken Massa out of the race, ruining his chances, and then said, yeah, I did that on purpose so that we could get Alonso to win, then I would then I'd say, hey, no, you have definitely affected his race there. So I would stand up for that race being voided were that the case. Were somebody intentionally crashed into to affect their race. But that wasn't the case. This was an error by Ferrari. And for all these years since, nobody said anything about it. Nobody was that bothered. They just accepted it. We get to 2023 and Bernie likes to spark off some more controversy in the comment section of Formula One social media. That ever bubbling cauldron of bullshit. Because let's face it, how many bullshit stories have you heard over the last few years in Formula One media? Well, just this year alone. How many different stories? We've had the Christian Horner scandal. What's the outcome of that? What's happening there? Can somebody enlighten me? Is Christian being punished for whatever he's supposed to have done with this employee? What's the outcome? But that held your attention for a while, didn't it? We've had the Susie Wolf situation exposed on NS&C. Was that just a facade as well? Was that just to keep the clicks going in social media, keep the conflict going, keep the fans fighting with each other? Yeah, Mercedes are getting an advantage. Toto and Susie's giving Toto all the secret information from the FIA. Yeah. What's happening there? All of these different stories, we're getting one every week or every 2 weeks. There's a new story, there's a new controversy coming out of F1. What happens? Each time, where does it end up? I'm not seeing any outcomes. Are you? But then we get Bernie present about, oh yes, the statutes say that the race should have been voided. No, they don't, Bernie. No, they don't. But you want to throw that in there? Oh, Massa should be the 2008 champion. No, he shouldn't. Oh, Massa's now got this team of lawyers. A team of lawyers think, oh, there's a chance of getting some money here. Cha-ching! Yeah, we'll make you an argument, Massa. We'll try and claim. The figure I've read is $80 million that Massa is trying to sue the FIA for basically lost earnings. Lost earnings. Had he been a world champion, he'd have been able to command more salary, he'd have got more sponsorship deals. That would have affected the rest of his life, and they've calculated to the tune of $80 million. Well, that's not the FIA's fault. It's Renault's fault that they caused a crash that caused a safety car. But had Ferrari not made an error, then it wouldn't be anybody's fault, because that situation would have occurred. Massa would have continued racing, and Massa was ahead of Hamilton in that race. It'd have picked up more points than Hamilton in that race, because Hamilton didn't win it. Hamilton came third. So Massa would have picked up more points and would have won that championship organically. He didn't. And the reason he didn't is because Ferrari messed up. Right? Simple as that. But a legal team think, cha-ching, oh, there's a money-making opportunity. Is that law? Is that law? Law. The purpose of law being to differentiate between right and wrong in the context of a given situation. Is what your team of lawyers doing, Massa, is that law or lawful? Or is it that just chasing money? Team of mercenary lawyers chasing money. And what message is that giving out? Is it giving out the message of what's the rights and wrongs of this situation? Because the rights and wrongs of the situation are, if a competitor cheats in a sporting event, the cheat gets disqualified. That is what happens time and time again. You don't see that event voided. Oh, somebody's cheated, we now void the event. Right? No. But you're proposing, Bernie's thrown it out, oh, we should have voided the event. Strange that, isn't it? Strange that. This is Bernie. And I'll come to this in another video. Was a commercial rights holder, so he's not on the governing body, right? Because he's just the holder of the commercial rights. He's not in the FIA. He's not making the rules. No, well, he shouldn't be. But he's suggesting that he and Max Mosley had the power to influence things like that. That's a bit strange, isn't it? The people that hold the commercial rights have got the power to influence the governing body of the sport, yeah? Rather strange, isn't it, Bernie? Rather strange. Rather revealing as well, isn't it, Bernie? What did you sell this thing to Liberty Media? How did you sell it to them? What did you tell them was possible, Bernie? What did you tell them? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, these are those videos. The one that's the second one down, the Raikkonen to sue the FIA for 80 million. Well, that's had quite a few clicks on it. 2,000 views compared to the others. Clearly, if you put a bit of a clickbait thumbnail, you get a few clicks sometimes. As you can see, most of them videos are ineligible for monetization for using the F1 TV clips. But hopefully some people will have seen it and seen the bullshit nature of what's going on there. Because, again, the reason I did that with Raikkonen is his pit stop under the safety car when somebody walked on track was slightly delayed. You know, there was a slight issue in changing one of the tyres, and so it was a slower pit stop. Nothing significant, but ultimately his team made an error at that pit stop, potentially impacting his race. The fact was, at Singapore 2008, the Ferrari team made an error, potentially impacting Massa's race. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. Had they not have done that, Massa would have been okay, probably. But Ferrari messed up. Now, I'm probably going to do a detailed analysis of this at some time. But when you type in Crashgate onto your search engine on the internet, you can get the Renault Formula 1 crash controversy, Wikipedia. And it will talk you through it. But the bit when I read through this that was really that really winds me up is let me just scroll down to it, where it's something that we've seen in 2022. PK Jr. Where are we? Here we go. Renault start legal action. So, PK Jr. loses his Renault contract, then spills the beans that he was told to crash. And this happens on the 11th of September, the day after PK Jr.'s statement to the FIA was leaked. Renault F1 stated that it intended to take legal action against PK Jr. and his father in both French and British courts, stating that today the ING Renault F1 team and its managing director Flavio Briatore personally wish to state they have commenced criminal proceedings against Nelson Piquet Jr. and Nelson Piquet Sr. in France concerning the making of false allegations and a related attempt to blackmail the team into allowing Mr. Piquet Jr. to drive for the remainder of the 2009 season. How filthy is this? How filthy is this? A team who are guilty of wrongdoing and cheating try to use the law to undermine and discredit those that are going up against them. What did we see in 2022? Red Bull had overspent. They breached the cost cap for 2021. They cheated for 2021. Christian Horner said, oh, those that are alleging that we've overspent, we'll take legal action against them. Remember that? Remember that? The cheats claiming that they're the ones that are going to sue the others for exposing them. Dirty bastards. So don't be scared of this notion of law. Don't be scared of this notion of suing. People have suggested to me, oh, Formula One will sue you. Bring it on. Bring it on, Formula One. Because they won't. And if they do, it will be brilliant. Okay? We'll get the cameras in court and we'll get all of the FIA lawyers, the most expensive ones that they can afford, and we'll see what they've got. Okay? We'll see what they've got and we'll see what I'm capable of doing in return. I cannot wait. So, Formula One, if you would like to sue me, all right, do it. Formula One, you are corrupt. Formula One, you fixed the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. That includes the FIA, Red Bull, Sky Sports, F1, all of the associated media. And there's more to add to that. If you would like to sue me to claim that I'm giving false information, go ahead. Take me to court. Because I will be taking you to court just as soon as I get a chance to, which hopefully is within the near future. But again, more to come on that as and when I can overcome just a few things that I need to deal with first. Anyway, I've been going on for a bit in this video. I'm going to draw it to a close. But I will do more of a breakdown of what's on Wikipedia and just go into Crashgate a little bit more, because effectively Abu Dhabi 2021 was another Crashgate. It was another Crashgate. Okay. We needed some help from the racing gods. Oh, 10 laps out, we need a miracle. When Nicholas Latifi started his lap 52, because Latifi was on lap 52, Hamilton had lapped him, Hamilton was on lap 53. Nicholas Latifi's race engineer says, it has to be this lap. What has to be this lap? Latifi sticks it into the wall. The engine is still running. Makes no attempt to move the car. Makes no attempt to see if that car is drivable and capable of making it around the next 2 corners and into his pit. No, just park it there and switch it off. Needs to be this lap. Just park it there. So he had his little choreographed duel with Mick Schumacher, where Mick Schumacher rolls the red carpet out. Olé, there you go, Nicholas. Oh, there, but I'll push you out wide as we go around turn 9. Oh, it's the dirty tyres. Yeah. The lower gear to go around turn 13 so you can blip the throttle and it will spin the back end out. Oh, that old chestnut. Anybody that's driven a rear-wheel drive car? Yeah. David Coulthard at the time was just dismayed that it looked to be the most basic schoolboy error of crashing in such a manner. The telemetry will tell you the truth. If anybody ever gets their hands on the telemetry, the throttle inputs of Latifi, the reaction times, you can tell whether that was done on purpose. I can't do it from here, okay? But the evidence adds up. The evidence adds up. Abu Dhabi 2021 was most likely to be another Crashgate. Okay? And even if we cannot prove that that crash was done on purpose, even if we can't prove it, which I think it is provable with the right telemetry, whether that still exists, whether that has just disappeared, like Michael Massey's ability to speak, who knows? Who knows? But irrespective of whether or not that still exists, Everything else still does. Everything that the commentators said, which was a lie, still exists. Everything that Massey decided, well, the evidence is there of what he did, which was wrong and was known to be wrong. Everything that each of those teams went along with, which was not in accordance with the rules of the sport, well, they went along with it. And that's not in accordance with the rules of the sport. All teams agreed to a racing ending. That's not allowed. Teams aren't allowed to agree on how an event finishes. Yeah, the teams in that football match agreed beforehand that it should be a penalty shootout. No, that's not what you're allowed to agree. You play a competitive sport in the event, and it will be what it will be in accordance with the rules. If you contrive it to end a certain way, well, you are fraudulent. You are manipulating an outcome. That's not authentic sport. You're defrauding fans of the sport. You're committing fraud. You get banned from the sport for doing that. Who's telling you that? Who in the media is exposing that? Hence, this is the point of my channel. I'm exposing things to people that they've just been conditioned to believe are normal. They're not normal. They are just not normal. We've then got the 4 stewards. So Mercedes did initially appeal. They took a barrister into that appeal. What's that all about? What's that all about? Is that just a facade as well? If they had concerns that something was going on, is that why they rocked up at circuit with a barrister? Do sporting teams rock up to play a game of sport and have a barrister with them just in case? But Mercedes did at Abu Dhabi 2021. And they took him into this appeal. And then the steward said, no, we're rejecting your appeal, Mercedes. Entirely corrupt in a manner that no media has ever exposed. I've done it a few times in videos, but they're a long time ago, so I'll go over it again at some point. But was just this notion of them presenting a barrister, was that a facade as well? Was that to convince the masses, oh, well, Mercedes took a legal expert in there with them and they got rejected. So, yeah, the FIA must be okay. And then Mercedes didn't pursue the appeal that they could have gone through with, which they would have won. What's that all about? A man was robbed of making history in his sport, in breaking the this record that, how long the record stands, who knows, but in the history of the sport, he became the most successful driver out on his own, right? Was robbed of that accolade, and his team just went, oh yeah, no, we won't do anything. What's that all about? All part of a facade. And the underlying motive is, well, if this show is exposed as just a fraudulent facade, then people switch off from it. The fan base reduces. The number of people that want to involve themselves with the sport decreases because there's less eyes on the sport. The value of the sport decreases. That impacts everybody. Every team, every driver, Liberty Media, all media, because they're getting their clicks of you reading the F1 articles. They're getting their clicks out of all the conflict in the comments section, aren't they? They're getting their clicks, so they're towing the narrative. This is when you drill down to who is making money in all of this, you'll see who the culprits are. And they want to tribalize people. They want us to be fighting. They want us to be fighting the Max Verstappen fanboys. Okay? How many of you get into the comments section? How many of you get trolled by somebody who is a fan of Charles Leclerc? How many of you get trolled by somebody who is a fan of Lando Norris? How many of you get trolled by somebody that's a fan of Sergio Perez or Alex Albon or Yuki Tsunoda, or name any other driver on the grid? I don't. I doubt that you do either. Why is that? Why is that? Drill down to it. Drill down to it. They created this. They've done it on purpose. And it's all part of their strategy. So again, I will explore some of these elements as we go through. But this is why I'm looking at Crashgate for this moment in time. Exposing that it's a contrivance. Look at the structure of what's happened, the way the governing body operates, the way the owner of the sport operates, the way that the law is used as this facade around it. Perpetrators threatening to use the law against those that are exposing them, okay? And lawyers, mercenary lawyers, jumping on something some 15 years after the event because they think that they can get some money out of it. Yeah, because they're really interested in law, aren't they? Or are lawyers interested in law, or are they interested in money? And when you start opening your eyes to that, you'll realise actually that whilst the purpose of law should be to determine the difference between right and wrong in the context of any given situation, and it's quite simple, because when you drill down to the facts of any given situation, quite easy to evaluate the rights and wrongs of it. Okay, it's fairly straightforward. And as long as you're a decent person and you're willing to be fair, okay, you're willing to acknowledge circumstance, and you're willing to acknowledge there's different parties and got, but you need to establish the facts of the matter, okay, and you need to be fair to everybody involved. That's what the law is there for. But it's not actually constructed that way. The reason that law is made, it's bastardized into what we have, certainly in the UK. I don't know how it works elsewhere in the world. In the UK, it's set up for lawyers to make money. Oh, law, legally, you wouldn't know. It's too confusing for you. Law's too complicated for you. So we advise that you get some legal advice. So you go and see your lawyer. The person you're up against, they'll get legal advice from their lawyer. You give your lawyer a shitload of money to make you an argument. They'll give their lawyer a shitload of money to make them an argument. And then the two legal teams will create these arguments and try and confuse the shit out of everybody, saying, oh, legally this and legally that, and oh, there's this precedent over here, oh, but there's this precedent over here, oh, and there's this Latin word over here that you won't understand, which means this and this, oh, and this, and it's all bullshit, okay? Because if you just simply expose, this is the facts of the situation, this is the rights of it, this is the wrongs of it, how are we going to deal with this? Let's deal with this in the fairest way, because that's all it requires. But all that actually happens is the two sets of lawyers make a fuckload of money out of it. There you go. Law. So hopefully that's woken some of you up to the notion of what law is and how interested in law lawyers really are, because actually what they're interested in is money. Anyway, until the next time, thanks for your time.